My next guest I had the privilege to sit down with is a social worker, somatic practitioner, and organizer. Within this episode, we talked about his relationship with his adoptive mother, finding love as a trans person, his fiance, and also romantic support and somatic healing. You're going to really enjoy this episode.
Dem Bois, Dem Bois, amplifying, transmitting color voices, yeah, we here making noise, making noise, Visibility equals possibility, you know we them boys, them boys,
Welcome to Dem Bois Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Aaron, he, him, his. My next guest is a social worker, a somatic practitioner, and organizer. He works as a gender therapist, providing space for predominantly trans folks to explore identity, relationships, and healing. Welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm Felix. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you here. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself for folks, name and pronouns, so that they know who you are?
Yeah, my name is Felix. Pronouns are he, him.
Welcome, Felix. You know, when I always do my intro, I always just speak matter of factly. I always say my guests, because I want folks, the reason that I'm here is for you. So I kind of want folks to say their own name, their own pronouns without me having to introduce folks, right? It's like you taking ownership of your own introduction and who you are as a person, introducing yourself to the world and to listeners. So that's why I do that.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Yeah.
So Felix, where are you from?
So I was born in China. And then I was adopted and brought here into America when I was about 1.5. Grew up in Rochester and now live in Philly.
Now you live in Philly. How's Philly treating you?
I love Philly. Yeah, I've always felt like something special for Philly, and now that I'm here, it just like resonates so much. And I'm like, yeah, this is right. This is it.
What is the city of brotherly love?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The city of T-boy love for sure.
Okay, I definitely want to talk about that a little bit more as we go on. And so the name Felix, how did that name choose you?
So my Chinese name is Fufei. Essentially, like in the orphanage that I was in, everyone got like Fu, which means lucky, and then another part of the name. So mine was Fufei, and then the full name is Long Fufei, and it translates essentially to lucky dragon. So when I was thinking about a name, I wanted something that honored my Chinese name, and Felix kind of means lucky, and then has Fei, Fei, which is part of my Chinese name.
Oh, I like that.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. And so when we talk about like being adopted and moving from one place to another, from, you know, your place of origin to another place, with other folks, I want to ask you, how has that been for you, just growing up?
Yeah, I mean, deep breath there. I think, growing up, I was lucky in the aspect that I was connected to a lot of community. I think that's what first taught me about community. I was part of this group called FCCC, which is Families with Children from China. And so it helped form a narrative for me that was not, I think, so heavy as a kid. It just meant that I was like part of this group, part of this special group of people that like share this experience. And I think it got more complicated to me as I kind of, started to feel my queerness, started to feel my transness, and recognizing that like the exploration of my Chinese identity would feel like it would come at a sacrifice to my queerness and my transness. And so I think I put my whole like adoption story, my adoption identity on the back burner and really leaned into queerness and transness. I was feeling a lot of dysphoria. I was feeling a lot of disconnection in that way. So it felt more prevalent. And now that I feel more secure in my identity of queerness and transness, I'm starting to unpack the adoption side, and I'm recognizing how much deeper it goes for me. And yeah, kind of what some adoptees might say, like coming out of the fog, starting to really unpack what happened, which is like, in a lot of ways, like as a baby, I was removed from my heritage, from my culture. I was kind of bought by this white lady who thought it was, interesting and cool to have an exotic baby.
Mm.
In a lot of ways, there's like human trafficking that was probably part of my story too. And like being a baby, not really knowing what that means, but now as an adult reflecting on it, it's like, wow, that was pretty bad. So I think I'm kind of at a place now where I'm just beginning to really see it and unpack it.
That's very interesting that you would say human trafficking. I've never thought of adopting a child from another, I'm gonna say continent, because that's ultimately what it is, right? It's as human trafficking. That's a very interesting way to categorize that, right? Because as a baby, as an infant, as a newborn, you don't have a say in where you're going. So in some ways that is trafficking, right? Of like money being exchanged, and you know what I mean? It's like, this person says, I want you, and not knowing, I don't know. It's just, you end up here in this place, right? And of course it ain't free, and I'm sure it's not cheap. And a lot of money touches a lot of different hands in order for those things to happen, right? Do you know the story of your birth parents?
Yeah. And I think this kind of goes hand in hand with like the human trafficking aspect. It's complicated in that like China has, when I was a baby, had the one child policy, which essentially means like any parent that had more than a second child was under threat. Like the government would literally like keep track, and like neighbors were there was a culture of telling on your neighbors, and there was serious ramifications. Like the government could come and burn down someone's house for having like a second child. And so that created such like an environment where having a second child, specifically having a female child, especially in rural areas, made it dangerous. And I think because even just having a child was dangerous, a lot of the information about me and myself is lost. Parents couldn't attach their names to me. My origins couldn't be attached. My adoption story is that I was found on the steps of a police station, and then transferred to an orphanage. But even I bring up human trafficking because of the context at which I was found. Growing up in a rural area, being found on a police station, I'm kind of learning as an adult indicates that maybe my parents didn't even know that I was put on a police station step. There's a possibility that my parents could have paid another Chinese person to take care of me, and that person could have then just taken the money and then dropped me off on the police station. So that's like another element of the human trafficking aspect.
That's very heavy on my heart goes to you, not because like in a bad way, but because like not knowing just is that lingering thing, right? And so it's just that piece of, I was talking with a guest before. I told you earlier that we were talking about just parenthood and reconciling with parenthood, and just how the different layers and the nuances of what parents choose to do and can do, and right. And I suspect in a motherly kind of way that a mother doesn't ever want to give up her child, right? You carry someone, and that's like the worst case scenario for some folks, for some mothers, not all, right? Some mothers just are, for whatever reason, don't want children and they've had one. But, I think I want to ask, like, how do you kind of reconcile with that as an adult? Of things that may have happened that you aren't sure of? Is it like speculation, or maybe, from a word from this person is like a he say, she say thing, but you're here. And I'm glad that you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any goodness that comes into this world because of you is a blessing. So I'm glad that you are physically still here. But how do you reconcile with that history?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think, I was taught to feel really grateful to be here. I was taught to feel like you're lucky that you got, this nice house, this nice family, all the things that you have. And I do feel like a sense of fate, like I was meant to be here, and that everything kind of worked out in the ways that it should have. So that's like one way that I kind of think about it. I don't think that I could have been a trans or queer person if I was in China. I don't think I could be doing the work that I feel so passionate about here in China, or maybe I could have, I'm not sure. But some of that uncertainty, I think, as an adult, I've learned to really lean into imagination, allowing myself to imagine what could have been, what maybe should have been, and allowing that to be legitimate. I think as a child, it was easy to fantasize, but then feel like, oh, but it's not real. And then as an adult, you think that even more. But I think part of my maturing and understanding this is like, and I don't know that it couldn't have been real. And so in this imagination, it's very real to me, and that's just as important.
Right. And so it's almost like this is feed into the white savior thing, right? Of like some white person swooping in to save us or to save you. And so I want to know kind of going through things as a younger person, right? When was a moment in your life when you just you felt kind of an awareness of who you were, and how did that equal to who you are now?
Yeah, I'm getting like this memory of myself, kind of like flashes of memory. One instance was like as a kid, I was put in like this sports camp. It was really sporty, really excited. It was the first time I got to go to a camp like this. And I was also like, I don't know, I was like a little bit of spacey as a kid. So when people gave me instructions, I like didn't really follow them. But what ended up happening is I was in this sports camp. People told me something. I was like, yep. And then I was just like following people online, not really kind of knowing what was going on. And I ended up hanging out with all these boys, and it was like a great time. We were playing basketball, shooting hoops. I was like, I love sports camp. This is great. And then people kind of like turned to me and were like, who are you? Like, what's your name? And I said like my dead name at the time. Well, my dead name, which was Lily. And they gave me a really weird look. And I was like, and then someone was like, haha, Willie, sick Willie. So they had changed my name for whatever reason I didn't understand. And then it wasn't until like later in the day that I realized they had divided the girls and the boys up, and I just followed the person in front of me. So I was in like the boys section, and of course I was a tomboy. I had my hair cut, had the polo, had the cargo shorts, so no one knew. And so that was like the first time that I like really got to like be quote unquote like a boy. They were like, remember like being in lunch, and they were like talking about like their balls and like everything like that. And I was like, wow, this is what boys talk about.
They talk about nothing.
Right, exactly. But I kind of got to be that for a day. And then of course at the end of the day, there was a girl that knew, because they had connected me before everyone got in line, that knew that I was a girl and essentially like outed me as that. And so that then I got the realization of like, oh, that's not good. That felt really bad. And so I went home and I like told my mom, I don't want to go back to the camp. I never told her why. And I just kind of like held that. But as I reflect, like that was a moment where I think I both got the experience of like, this is who I am when all the pressure is off, when societally there's really like no expectation. You just put into a group and assumed that. And I think there's something it was really beautiful for me in having that moment, even though like it ended kind of on a poor note. Yeah. And I think, there's also elements to like being like my queerness as a kid, like being just like a little bit weird. And I think finding other kids that were like a little bit weird. And then like later discovering that like we were all queer and we're like trans and neurodivergent, and being like, yeah, as a kid, I think we always knew that. We just didn't have the language or the categories for it. But being around each other made us feel safe.
The Visibility Equals Possibility collection has new designs and a new designer, me. My name is Zion, pronouns he, him, his, and I was on episode 53 if you want to go back and check that out. But I am the second trans man of color to design for the Visibility Equals Possibility collection. Dem Bois believes visibility equals possibility, and so do I. I am honored to take part in this groundbreaking collection and look forward to seeing what else the collection has in store. My designs represent having confidence and courage to be bold with your visibility. The design, in my mind, says, take the caution you need, but I am here. I hope you all enjoy the designs, and be sure to purchase some designs from me or Emilio to support the gender-affirming programs by Dem Bois. Find the amazing designs of the Visibility Equals Possibility collection and other merch items that I've designed on the Dem Bois shop at dembois.org. That's DEMBOI as in igloo, s.org. And remember, visibility equals possibility.
I wonder, like, how is it that kids know that there is something different?
Right.
Like, how do you know? Like, if let's just say you are just a clean slate, your parents never talked about anything, you just show up at school, and how is it that you feel like I'm different than that kid over there, and I'm a little bit like this kid over here? You know what I mean? And so I'm gonna hang with this. I wonder, like, where that idea of who we are and how we're different comes about. You have any ideas of what you think that may be?
Yeah, I've wondered this a lot. I think so. I went to an all-girls Catholic high school, and so the friends that I'm talking about are literally the friends that I made there. Where, like, in high school, I think I was the first one to really come out in the friend group, and then slowly other people did. And at this point, like, all of them are like queer except for maybe one or two. And I think there's just like a knowing that happens when you like look at someone and they look at you, and there's like this mirroring effect that happens, that you are drawn to whatever that person is because you see yourself in them. And I think that's maybe what was happening, was like I felt like such an othered person, and I felt like on the sidelines. And so then when I looked to the other people on the sidelines, I was like, oh, you feel the same way. Like, you feel what I feel. And we don't quite know the context as to why we feel that, but there's definitely something off here, and we're off in maybe the same kind of ways.
Yeah, I know when I was in high school, I hung around a bunch of, we all play basketball, so that's a stereotypical group of lesbian groups. But some of us I was always a masculine presenting person, but some of us were more feminine than others, and some masculine, but it was always we just hung together. Not every person on the basketball team hung together, but it was a group of 3 or 4 of us that really did, right? And we always deny, right, of being, lesbian or liking other women. But then as time goes on, right, like, oh yeah, you like women too? Oh, and so do I, right? So I don't know what that attraction is to each other to be friends, when it's kind of like, I don't want to say weird, but like, certain kids hang around together, right? In high school, like the goth kids hang around each other. The kind of nerdy folks kind of hang around each other. Some of the queer folks tend to hang around each other, right? And so it's like, how does that, especially in elementary, right? When it's something, high school is totally different than elementary. So it's like, how do you pick your people? How do you pick your community when you're 7 years old? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're a better picker than you are when you're an adult.
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. That is so true. So your adopted mother, do you call your adopted parent, do you call her mother, or do you call her by her first name, or how does that work for
you? I've always called her like mom. I think, as I've gotten older, it feels more important to have the distinction of like bio mom versus adoptive mom. In certain situations, I think that's part of me starting to like lean more into understanding my adoption, is that like, I think in the same ways that when we put like labels on things, that to say adoptive mom, maybe, I don't know, for me explains a lot more. But I think, there's other layers to that too. There's like some distance there already. So I think maybe that is another way to distance even. But
so how does your adoptive mother, how does she take your gender journey?
Yeah, I mean, when I say distance, that's that's the
I was
distance.
wondering. I was gonna let you say it, just like your name and your introduction. I was just gonna let you say it. I'm here to bring out the story. So
Yeah. So when I came out as a lesbian, the first thing she said to me was like, "Oh, like thank God you're not trans." And I think that's something that I honestly hear too much. It's like such like a common thing. But yeah, I think when I came out, I was like, oh, thank God she like accepts me. There's this other thing that she was afraid of. I'll never be that. It's okay. And then when I realized like, oh, like maybe I am that thing, there was a sense of like, oh, but I mean, she took the other thing so well, like maybe things will be fine. Like, you know, I'm older now, maybe things have changed. So I came out to her and I essentially gave her like a book of like a guide for parents whose kids are trans. And I'd read the book and I annotated the book and I was like, here, like this is me. And she had like such a big reaction around physical transition. That's something that she really got stuck on. You know, my mom's a drug counselor, so I think there's, you know, something there for her when it comes to medication. And she like never really got over it. And it's been about 10 years now. And so, yeah.
that's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time. I mean, things have gotten, you know, somewhat better, but the last conversation we had was really me fighting for my name and pronouns. And she really couldn't budge on that. And so, yeah, I have not spoken to her in the past 6 months, kind of taken a break from that. I think in the next, you know, couple months, I will probably reach out, but I needed some space.
Most definitely. We got to learn how to protect our own peace first before we coddle somebody else's comfortability.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so I want to ask you, this is a question that, I mean, I don't know. Let me just ask it. So being adopted by a white lady, a white woman, that comes with certain status. It comes with certain privilege, I should say, and not necessarily for folks of color, but for her, obviously, right? Did you kind of feel that in some ways as you were growing up? And was that ever something that was weaponized against you?
Well, it was interesting because I was adopted by a white lady and also a single mom. And so my mom was navigating raising me. She also adopted my sister when I was 10. So she was raising my sister. And then as my grandmother got older, she also became my grandmother's caretaker. And so I think it was hard to see that she was privileged because there was so much scarcity around us, around time, around energy, around resources, because she was just trying to keep us all afloat. And so in that regard, I never thought about it, but now as like I'm an adult and we try to talk about race, we try to talk about queerness, we try to talk about transness, or even these larger systemic things, it's so clear that her whiteness isn't even something that she's aware of. You know, she knows the otherness of me. She knows that like the exoticism, the Asian stuff, the things that I think she feels really attracted to for whatever reason. But she doesn't know that she's in the default setting, and like it's hard. There's so much defensiveness to even bring it up.
That would be the key.
That would be the key,
right? To unlocking a deeper pieces of your relationship. Right? It's like it's about taking accountability, not just for yourself, but just the unintentionally the place where you are in the world, right? And so that has a lot of weight, and if you can't kind of acknowledge it, at least a relationship will remain stagnant. You know what I mean? It's like being in an abusive relationship, but the abuser doesn't know that they're an abuser. Well, how the hell are we gonna work through some shit if you don't know that you whooping my ass every day? Like, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you know, that's really heavy. I don't mean to say it like that. So for folks that's listening, I apologize for maybe that kind of like a trigger or traumatic thing, but it's like, you know, maybe I should say something a little bit lighter. Maybe someone who's verbally abusive, right? If you're not aware that every time I put on this outfit, you say, damn, you look fat. You know, then how can we, you know, build on our intimacy or have a deeper relationship when you're not recognizing or taking accountability for the times when you harm me? You know, and so that could be the key to unlocking a different relationship with you and her.
Yeah, totally. That's the first step. And I think that's why we haven't been able to move anywhere, because we haven't passed the first step yet.
Right. Do you have, well, I was going to say, do you have any ways of which you think you can kind of tackle that? Or if it's like, I don't want to deal with it. I don't have the energy. I don't have the time. Let her be who she going to be.
Yeah. I mean, I think over these past 10 years, especially coming into my own adulthood, I think I've tried a lot of different ways. I've tried to, you know, just have a conversation. I've tried to ignore. I've tried to pretend that things were different. I've tried to find some place in between. And I think the conversation that we had last was kind of my realization of like, there's so much hope on her changing, and I need to really come to a place to accept that maybe she just won't. What does it mean for me to be in relationship with her as she is, in the ways that I feel she is? And how do I relate to her on a different level? Maybe it has to be more surface level. Maybe it has to be, you know, I have to be more guarded, and I have to have a lot more space between us if I want the relationship to feel right for me.
Do you ever feel like there can be like a severance of the relationship, just to say, just to be like, okay, that you were my key to getting to where I am in life, and that's just it. There is no relationship. There is no nothing. Would you ever think you ever get to that point where it's just like not even worth it? And thank you for your service. You know what I mean? Type of thing. Like, thank you for doing the service for me. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for raising me. Thank you for providing for me. But that's all you're here to do. Anything other than that, a relationship or love or anything else, I can't do that. Or we're not meant to go that journey. Do you ever think of something like that?
I mean, I definitely have. Absolutely. I think when I first came out, we were really, really button heads. And I think I was fighting so hard for her to understand me. And it got to a point where it just hurt so much. And I was like, this is too painful to be in. And I really was questioning, like, maybe I just walk away. And maybe it's actually less painful for me to walk away. And I think right now, I'm still kind of grappling with that question. I think there's complexity for me in that, like, there's my sister too, who's very, very close to my mom. And my sister is someone that I wish that I could be closer to. There's also the aspect that, like, my mom is getting older and, you know, she could get sick, and that would leave my sister alone in the care for her. And I don't think that I could do that to her. So yeah, it's hard. I think there's also a part of me that very much still loves my mother, and there's a lot of things about her that I do appreciate. A lot of things that even in the white savior complex that she's so unaware of, her, what it is Christianity. It's service. It's like giving to others. She's always wanting to give to others. There's like, you know, like, it's so complicated in my head in that way, that it feels both icky to walk away and both icky to be there. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't think that as children, we are adults, but as a child of a parent, as a child, the parent, that's their job to figure that shit out. I feel like that's not our job to figure out, right? I feel like if we choose to build a family on our own, then it's our job to figure it out for the little ones we bring into our lives, right? But that work, I feel like it's on them. I feel like the bridging of a relationship between me and my mother, that ain't on me. I didn't ask you to bring me here. You did some fucked up shit to me when I was 9. Why do I gotta fix that? You know what I mean? So it's like, that's why I'm in therapy, because of some shit you said to me when I was 13 or done to me when I was 18, right? And so it's like, that's not my job to fix that. My job is to fix the effects of that in the ways in which how I feel, but the act of it, that's for you to fix. So it's kind of like, I'm really, I don't know. I sometimes I feel like I'm speaking to parents here as well, right? Because we don't know who listened to us, right? It could be all these folks. It could also be some parents or some people that have curiosity about our lives, right? And they know that we're not monolithic, but for somebody that's generally curious about how to be in relationship with a trans person, whether it's like, oh, my child is trans, or my nephew, or you know what I mean? It's like, the first thing to do is to show up for people, not to tell people how they should live their lives or how they should be, right? But I feel as if I'm a parent, my son is 29 years old. My son came to me and said, I don't know, whatever he may say. Listen, my job is to love and support you. Anything else, that's not healthy. That's not helping, right? And so as parents need to get that shit together. Get it together.
Hey, this is Joel Simu, production assistant for Dem Bois Podcast. Our community keeps growing, and we'd love for you to be an even bigger part of it. Have a story that needs to be heard? A powerful moment you'd like to share? Well, we've expanded our newsletter to include more voices from our community, and yours could be next. We're looking for those meaningful snapshots of life, your personal stories and reflections that capture who we are. Think 100 to 200 words that pack a punch. Ready to share your story? Send your writing to me at joel@dembois.org. That's JOEL@dembois.org.
Out of all of that stuff, right? Mother, your origin story, all of those things right now in your life, Felix, who's supporting you? Who's loving you and breathing life into you these days?
Great question. Yeah, I mean, with how difficult family has been, I think community is one thing that has been my lifeline for sure. From like just local community to queer and trans community to BIPOC community to queer BIPOC community, it's really something that keeps me going and feels stable and steady, that there will always be groups of people there for me. But on a personal note, I just got engaged. So my fiance, of course.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really, truly such a blessing to have this love in my life. To be a trans person loving another trans person, I think is so special. I feel really seen and really uplifted. And I think beyond our transness, I think she's just like a wonderful woman. Like, I think so highly of her. And really like, yeah, I feel so loved. And of course, friends. I have some really, really wonderful friends that are very, very patient with me. And some really great like organizing buddies as well.
Okay. Well, thank you, friends, for being patient with Felix. Thank you. So T for T love. I'm first. I'm gonna say happy. I'm happy for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And so how did that happen? Did you propose or she proposed? How did it go?
So the way it went was about a year and a half ago, we kind of had the conversation around marriage. And we had the conversation of like, do you want to propose? Do you want me to propose? Should we both propose? And ultimately, I made the decision. And this is a little bit toxic masculinity of me, but I was like, I want to be the first one to propose. There's something about it to me like that felt like important. It still felt important. And so she went away for a conference. I had been kind of, scheming. And she got back from her conference and we went out on this nice dinner. It was our anniversary, so we got like all dressed up. And essentially, while she was away, I had created this Google Doc and had this dress rehearsal with my friends to come in and set up the apartment really cute. I got like pine cones and wooden flowers and pillar candles, and set up like a bunch of our photo booth pictures on the mirror with lots of flowers, so that when we came back from our fancy dinner, like the whole room was like set up. So she was like, "Oh my gosh!" Or truly, she was like, "What the fuck? What the fuck?" It's really what she said. And then it was like arranged kind of like in a circle. So I brought her into the circle, and I had like memorized this like little 2-minute speech of how I felt about her, and I said it. And our apartment has 2 floors, so our friends were like hiding up on the second floor.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so obviously when she said yes, we like hugged, kissed, and I was like, she said yes. And everyone like came down and was like, ah.
Oh, and then she was like, what the fuck again?
Yeah, exactly. She's like, what the but we popped some champagne and we just celebrated all together.
Nice. That's beautiful. Congratulations. So what would have happened had she said no? Then what? They would just stay hidden?
I guess so, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty confident. She had been dropping hints.
Okay.
Her best friend Cody had been like, she keeps telling me she wants to be engaged. She wants to be engaged. We had a conversation earlier where she was like, yeah, I want more rings. I want more gold rings. I was like, I'm working on it. I got to pay for it.
Right. So when is the date? Do you have a date set?
So we have a soft date of summer 2027, late August. One of my groomsmen has a wedding happening around the same time. So I'm trying to confirm to make sure we don't overlap because he's in Rochester, we're in Philly. We want to make sure he can be there. So around that.
Nice. And so for folks listening, you want to kind of talk a little bit about love, because even if it's not T for T, right? Just love in general, right? It's this idea of, oh, you transitioning. No one's going to love you. You're not lovable, right? Or, and some of those things, you won't be able to get into a relationship. You want to give some kind of words of advice for folks listening?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, my first relationship, that period of time is when I was exploring my transness. And I was in like a lesbian relationship, really is what it would be called. And I had like such a fear of like, well, if I come out and I say that I'm trans, then they're not going to want to date me. Because that means like maybe, they think I'm not the right person for them, and I think they're not the right person for me, yada, yada, yada. I came out, and in doing so, this other person came out to me as also being trans. And that has been kind of the story of my life since then, is like through my transness and through like other people loving me and me loving them. Pretty much everyone I've dated has come out as some type of like non-binary. She, they, them, he, him. And I think, there's just something so beautiful about like being loved for exactly as you are, and knowing yourself deeply and being brave enough to say it.
Mhm.
And for those people to be able to hold it, I think it's a really good, barometer of who I'm willing to let in my life generally. Is if someone can hold me in that way, can hold my transness, can hold my queerness. Because when they can, it just feels so special. And I have to say, like, the love between two trans people too just feels so special for me. And yeah, I think it's a lot of it is like just being able to breathe. Just being able to like have a space where you can like really breathe, drop the shoulders, drop the jaw, and just be. Yeah.
Yeah, and to be with somebody you don't gotta explain shit to. They just get you. They
Exactly.
get you. They get just everything of the transition. They understand just a little bit more than somebody who hadn't experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, are we as trans folks? Are we lovable? Are we capable of being loved?
I think we are more capable than anyone else. I think it truly takes an act of love to transition. It truly takes an act of loving yourself and committing to yourself. And we teach ourselves how important we are. And I think then we know how to treat other people in the same ways.
Right, giving yourself permission to be happy. I have not been happier. Oh, I was a sad little girl. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I've been happy ever since. I don't know, your actual journey as far as like top surgery or anything like that, because that's not necessarily in everyone's journey. But that was my moment of happy. I was like, I thought I was happy, but shedding that shit, oh, I'm the happiest. Right. And so it's like being able to really be vulnerable and say, I don't give a fuck what nobody else says. I don't care what the world says about me and my journey. I'm going to be exactly who I want to be, who I was meant to be, not who I want to be, who I was meant to be. Yeah. So, yeah. So even just people that don't want to be in our lives, mama can't get it together. Sorry. I'm happy. You're just missing out on a wonderful person. And that's just your fault. Not mine. 2026 marks 10 years of Dem Bois Inc. That's 10 years of community care, 10 years of leadership rooted in love, and 10 years of turning visibility into possibility. And so to honor this milestone, we've launched our 10 for 10 campaign. You're like, Sean, 10 for 10, what's that? So we are inviting you, our listeners, our supporters, our allies, and other folks in the community to give $10 a month to help sustain the care, leadership, and visibility that trans men of color deserve. And so 10 years is a very long time, right? That's a decade. Can you imagine raising a child from birth and then looking at them at their 10th birthday party and being like, wow, you've watched so much of their growth within that 10 years, right? That's the same for us. And so Dem Bois Inc., over the 10 years, we have done a lot. And so we have provided gender affirming surgery grants to trans men of color to obtain gender affirming surgeries. We started this podcast. We are now in season 4 of the podcast in 2026. We created our Visibility Equals Possibility merch. We partnered with Emilio and Zion, both trans men of color, to design what visibility equals possibility means to them. And it's reflected in our merch. We also partnered with the Black trans man, Mola Flow, to create our theme song. And that's the music that you hear every time you tune into Dem Bois Podcast. We've done merch. We've done partnering. We have delivered care packages to trans men of color in need of personal hygiene items within our community. We have done a lot in 10 years. And so imagine what the next 10 years would look like. Donating $10 a month says, I believe in this work. I believe in the future of trans men of color, and I believe in what comes next. And so if this call resonates with you, join us today. And we've even made it easy. You don't even got to go anywhere. Whatever platform you're listening to this episode, go ahead and open up the show notes. And from there, you will be able to click the link to start your contribution to our 10 for 10 campaign. Your monthly support helps ensure Them Boys can continue showing up for our community with intention, care, and impact. So thank you for listening and thank you for believing in our mission. Okay, and I'm going to get out of here so you can listen to this episode. Take care. Yeah. So you also are a somatic practitioner. You want to tell folks a little bit more about what that is, what that entails?
Yeah. So somatics kind of means the body. So, as a therapist, I think a lot of the ways we think about therapy and healing comes from like our thoughts, like moving through our thoughts and identifying thought patterns and changing our thought patterns. But I think what somatics has taught me is so much of everything, the root of everything starts in the body, the way our bodies respond to certain contexts, the way our nervous system interacts with the environment around it. I feel like there's so much I could say about it, but to kind of keep it simple, I think it's just like we are unbalanced as a society right now, where we focus so much on the head and everything that comes up here, that I think really somatics is the main goal to drop below and to prioritize and rebalance our understanding of information that's happening, everything below the neck.
I definitely understand what you're saying, because I talk about therapy all the time on here. And so my therapist is actually a somatic practitioner as well. So I definitely understand everything you're saying about it. I feel like you're right, though. It's not like regular therapy of just talking through, just talking and working through your thoughts. Because I feel like, to me, I have more clarity when I learn how my nervous system responds to the things that I'm going through, as opposed to me just talking about some stuff. But I feel like when I left the regular therapist, I still got shit that I don't know. It ain't shit figured out. An hour or however long you get, right? I'm like, I got more shit to talk about. But when you're addressing how internally your nervous system feels and learn how to work through some of those things and come out of it, I just feel more complete. And I've worked with some really, really heavy stuff, and just learning like, oh, that's my body. This was what my body was telling me. Oh, okay. Now I know how to work through that. And I have that muscle memory of like, okay, when I feel like that, how do I work through that so I can get through it the next time? So to me, somatic therapy has been very, very helpful. And I've been doing it now. I go once a week for like the last 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and you focus on predominantly trans folks to explore identity, relationships, and healing. And so you want to talk more in depth about that and why you chose to just work with trans folks?
Yeah. Transness is such a large piece of my life and my identity. I think especially now more than ever, like we need healers, specifically for trans folks. Like so much of our lives is being under attack. Specifically, I think when it comes to embodiment, I think we're taught to disengage from our bodies, to be detached, to mask, to be someone else entirely, really. So I feel like, as someone growing up in a Christian household, I never really had someone to talk to about gender and about sexuality. And I just didn't have the language or the model for what that could look like. And I ended up, as you said, like a really sad girl, a really sad, angry girl. And as I got older and as I started to think about my purpose and as I started to think about all the ways that my experience shaped me to be who I am today, I just feel so deeply that like, we need more trans folks to be working in these healing professions, to help, the younger generation that is now dealing with all the same things, and it's even more visible, even more under attack. And yeah, I think it's again comes back to love, and I think trans love and T for T is not just in a romantic sense, but in like loving my community. That feels really special and sacred to me. And it would feel really challenging, I think, to be doing things differently.
I love that. And so, what if somebody said, somatic practitioner, that ain't real, right? You know, we always got haters. People always want to hate. So, what about people that say, you know, even I know people that say therapy, it don't work. And, you know, now he's like, oh, this is another thing, another something else with another name. That don't work. So how do you defend how beneficial it is, especially for trans folks, to work through some of these things that we go through? And I think there's different levels and layers that when you have, you know, you're gender diverse, you come from a trans experience, that, you know, it ain't just that regular stuff everybody else talking about. We've got some heavy shit to talk about, right? We're working through so many things. So how do you kind of validate, like, no, this shit is real and it's helping trans folks to be better people?
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel weary to defend therapy because it has such a long history of harm, specifically social work, and I understand where people are coming from, and I think for someone that maybe is a naysayer or doesn't quite trust, I think it's honoring that there's in some ways that skepticism or cynicism is caused by harm from somewhere, that shield is up for some reason. And so I don't think necessarily I need to defend somatics, but really to understand and hold space for the ways in which healers have caused harm and why people are mistrusted.
That is a very good point. And that's just how, even like, I'm speak from experience of like, just like the Black community, right? We have like that old uncle or the grandpa that don't go to the doctor. You know, they don't trust the doctors. Why? Historically, because folks that have sworn to take care of people have misled us, have abused us, and just malpractice, not showing up for us in the ways in which the profession requires. And to this day, 2026, as a Black trans man, and I hate to say this because I always speak on good experiences at the doctor's office. I recently had to literally fight for my life at the doctor's office. Like, no, the answer to my problem is not in chapter 3. Like, I'm literally telling you, can you please listen to what I'm saying about my pain? My pain level. It's not what you thinking. It's something else, right? And come to find out, because I had to advocate for myself so strongly, it was something else. I know my body, right? But then we're talking about people not being held with care. And this is why they don't trust these systems. So you're right. You can't really defend therapy. You can't really defend anything. But people just you have to try it, right? And it's just like finding a barber or finding somebody, I don't know, finding a nail technician if you go get manicures and pedicures. I'm going to just start with a barber, because if you go to a barber, you ain't going to just run up in the first barber shop and be like, cut my head like this. No, it take practice. You're like, oh, that motherfucker fucked up my hair. So I'm not going to go there no more, right? And you keep looking for a barber until you like, oh, this barber is it. He cut it just the way I liked it. He didn't push my hairline back. He lined me up really nicely. For you, I don't have no hair, so that don't account for me. So if I'm looking at you, right? Like, right, you trim my curls really nicely, or my hair. I'm gonna stick with this person. This is now my permanent barber, right? I feel like therapy is the same thing. You try a therapist, and I know when I have a friend that says, I don't want to go to therapy because it's exhausting having to explain my life to another person. I mean, respectfully so. But if you really don't deny yourself your healing, you owe it to yourself. And so, yeah, you may have to explain yourself, but then that therapist may get it. And that just may be the therapist that you need to help you work through what you got to work through. To come out on the other side. So I'm with you. I don't want to defend it, but I will tell folks to keep trying until you find the right one, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we often use the metaphor, well, I guess myself, like dating around for a therapist. It's kind of like the same thing. It's like a barber. Yeah. It's like, it takes a while. Sometimes, sometimes that first connection isn't right. And it's okay to honor that.
Right. And it's just like any relationship, just like a romantic relationship. Everybody ain't meant to be dated.
Exactly.
We got some exes that we like, I'm so glad I am not in that relationship no more. That person was toxic, or that, you know what I'm saying? And what happens? You break up with that person, or they break up with you, and you move on and you date somebody else. You don't get your first heartbreak and be like, I'm never dating again. And you never dated again. No, you just get up and you try it again. Therapy is kind of like in that same thing. You got to kind of like train your mind to think of it in the same way. Just like a romantic relationship, your mental relationship with yourself is just as important. Because how can you show up in a romantic relationship or relationship with your children or relationship with your parents if you don't do the work for yourself? Right. And so it's very, very important.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. Felix, thank you so much for being a guest on this show. I really appreciate you. I want to say before we get out of here, this is the part of the show, though, where I love to ask my guests a random ass question. I got a long list of questions. I got 85 questions on my list now. I just randomly come up with them. One day I might wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh, I had a dream. And this is the question I'm going to put on my list. It literally does happen like that, right? And so I'm not going to ask you all of the questions, but I want you to pick a number between 1 and 85, and I'll read you that question.
Ooh, okay, I like that. 77.
Number 77. You know, I always say this too, that the question may or may not have anything to do with what we talked about today, but it has been proven over and over again. Even though I say that, and sometimes I don't even mention it till after I get the question, and it sometimes has something to do with what we talked about.
Faded.
Yeah. So number 77 says, this was left season 3. I asked guests to leave questions for future guests to answer. So to add to my list. And so this question was left by Alexander Ray Simon Perez. I'll put a link to their episode in the show notes so folks can go back and listen to their episode. But the question is, what can self-love look like for you today?
To go back to our most recent conversation, I've really been investing in myself recently. I, as a therapist right now, I don't have insurance, so a lot of it is out of pocket, which is pricey. But I made the decision that I'm just gonna have to figure it out and make it work, because that's important, just as important as everything else. So self-love has been investing in that, investing in a weightlifting coach, because that's something I really care about. But yeah, it's almost like monetary. Sometimes I'm a little skimpy on that. So really putting the money down for myself.
Yes, investing in yourself and your well-being.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for that. Hey, would you like to leave a question for a future guest to answer?
Yeah, I'm gonna steal a question from Laverne Cox's podcast that she uses at the end of every podcast that I really love. And the question is just, what else is true? So in the context of maybe what the podcast has been talking about, we can sometimes get stuck in a lane of a perspective. And the question is, what else is true? What else is, possible? So hopefully that's a good question for one of you guys.
I love that. So what else is true, Felix?
What else is true? I mean, to go back to our conversation on therapy, I'm kind of stuck on it right now. For folks that are, weary, hesitant of therapy, the what else true question is, you've got community, you've got friendships, you've got family, you've got all these other people in your life too that can be your support systems. And it's really on you to be vulnerable enough to open up and share. Maybe if it feels hard to trust a stranger, trust your family, your community.
That is a nugget of advice. Thank you for that, Felix. So I want to say thank you again for being a guest on the show. You have been wonderful. Any last little tidbit, any last little word that you would like to say before we get up out of here?
Just, a lot of gratitude for this time that we've had, for the things that you're doing, for the conversations that you're having. It's so important that we uplift, trans voices, people of color, and we kind of broadcast that out and give people the opportunity to take that in. So just thank you for the work that you're doing.